Hey everybody, welcome into this week's edition of Full Court Coverage here on JacksonSun.com. I am Jackson Sun high school sports columnist Brandon Shields. I forgot my name there for a second. This is Michael Odom, who coordinates our basketball coverage. Craig Thomas, who is the assistant coordinator of the basketball coverage. And just kind of before we get started talking off about some of the big games going on this weekend, we're a couple weeks into the season, guys. Kind of give me, y'all seen considerably more basketball than I have. Just kind of, who are a couple of teams that maybe are impressing y'all the most so far?
I mean, as far as the teams I've actually seen for myself, and then, we take some of the scores as well. I mean, Gibson County's girls stand out. And I think we all knew how good this team was going to be coming in. I think it's pretty clear everybody, Aaron Lamb's one of the better shooters in the area. Brianna Fields, one of the better athletes in the area, just offense and defense. And then they've got a nice supporting cast. They just seem to have, like I said last week, a pretty good idea of what they want to do, and I think that's something that really stands out because a lot of teams are still sort of learning themselves, learning what their strengths are. Gibson County, I think, already knows.
Michael, how about you?
You got to go with USJ boys. I really thought that they would have a little dip or downgrade in the early part of the season with so many seniors gone, but I mean, you look at who they've beaten already, and it's kind of like, seriously? I mean, you look at Dyer County last Friday. I mean, that's a huge win over a AAA powerhouse.
They were in control the whole time, so I mean, that was a good win.
I mean, that's impressive coming out of that team. USJ's definitely boys have been one that's been impressive to me.
And they'll have some tests here in the next couple of weeks before Christmas tournaments, kind of see definitely if they can keep that impressive up. But we'll be back in just a minute. We'll be talking about a couple of the top girls' high school basketball games to look at.
My South Side is creative.
My South Side is Free Expressions.
My South Side is Friday nights and leading the student section.
My South Side is FFA.
My South Side is Reminiscing.
My South Side is Theatrical.
My South Side is On Key.
My South Side is Live.
And we're back for another segment, and this one we're talking about a couple of girls' games that are definitely going to be ones you want to keep track of, or if you're not going to be there on Friday night. And the first one is TCA versus Middleton.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I think for a couple reasons. I guess I can talk about Middleton for a second. I mean, this is a team that's won, what is it now, 41 in a row, I guess?
I think it's right at 40.
40 since, going back to the end of 2 years ago. They won all their games last year. This team, I saw play against Liberty last week. Corey Warren had a pretty good game in that game. They, had some struggles, I think, with turnovers a little bit in that game, but Alexis Pledge, one of their primary ball handlers, didn't play. They've got some scoring inside. Just overall, I don't think they're a real polished team yet, but I think they're a pretty well-rounded team. And when you look at DeKeidra Mason and Chelsea Perry, they've got a lot of gifts overall. And I mean, this is a team that I see a pretty high ceiling for. And I think James Berkeley, would say the same.
TCA's got kind of some scoring firepower, particularly in Bren Lytle. But do they have kind of the enough on their team to kind of stop this win streak at 40 or 41, whatever it could be by Friday?
I mean, this is going to be a good test for them. So far this season, TCA girls have played a lot of AA teams, and I think that's going to prepare them for that single A schedule in the tough district they play in with teams like Riverside, Scottsdale, Middleton. They're going to have to come and play well every night to be successful. And so those AA teams have helped them find the weaknesses because, you play the McNairys and the South Gibsons and the Chesters, and they all bring, different assets to the table. They haven't won all of them, but I think they've been able to play with all of those teams. And, this is going to be a good test for them. If they're, a lot of people projected them to be the number 2 team out of that district, and if that's going to be so, they're going to have to play well against Middleton.
Yeah, I was at that Trinity South Gibson game a couple weeks ago, and I think Trinity lost 54-41, if I'm not mistaken. They got down something like 13-0.
Yeah.
Now, you can't write that off, but, after that little bad stretch there for a bit, it's a pretty even game. So, definitely some potential on both sides for this Trinity Middleton game.
Moving up to AA, there are a couple of teams meeting Friday that have a chance at moving on, or that we could be talking about in late February in sectionals and even state tournament time in early March. Haywood and Lexington.
I'll kind of defer to Michael on this for the most part. I think, when you look at Jamira shoots, 41 points against Southside, that really sort of jumped out to us. Even in double overtime, that's a heck of a night.
Right.
She's gotten some support from from some other people, and Derek Young and some people like that. Haywood's a team that I think is one of those, kind of like we talked about last week, that had some success last year in the postseason, but definitely looking for some more. And Lexington, a good opportunity to sort of show where they're at here in December.
Lexington is a younger team, lost a lot from last year, but they've had some big wins, and they played a tough schedule early. Over Thanksgiving, they took 2 losses to Dyer County and Westview, and now it's going to be, where are they at? Are they good enough to compete with a Haywood, who's supposed to be a district champ? And that's going to show a lot when they go into district against Southside, and Westview's the number 1 on the other side. So if Lexington's wanting to be a district champ for the 2nd straight year, they're going to have to come out and show that they can compete against those type teams.
All right, well, if you want to find out a couple of the big boys games on Friday to go watch, stay tuned. We'll come back with those.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life to somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
Now we're moving up to the boys' games, and a couple of them to watch for this week. And for the first one, we're going to go up to Carroll County as we see a couple of rivals in just about every sport meet each other, and that is Huntington and McKenzie.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a little bit more insight into this game, but it's kind of tough. These are 2 teams that had runs in the football playoffs, and we haven't really seen them at their full, complement of players. Huntington, when you talk about a guy like Dylan Johnson with the, injury recovery and stuff like that, and then, McKenzie with Jack Serber as the quarterback, and some other guys as well. So, I mean, like you said, it's a rivalry game. I think that alone always makes it interesting. And we talk about the best rivalries in West Tennessee, just sort of across the board. I mean, everyone sort of knows it is a football rivalry, but really just in all the sports, it kind of makes it interesting too.
I expect a packed gym up in McKenzie on Friday night. I'm going to be covering that game. McKenzie is coming off of a big season. Last year went regular season with 4 losses, and that was with one of their best players, and Brashawn Oglesby being hurt. They competed against the Lake Counties and the Humboldts, but this is a totally different team because they lost so much talent off of that team with Brashawn and Edwin Dudley and that group there, that Tyree Owens. And so they're going to have to come out and play well. It's a home game, so they're going to want to have to perform well. Jack Serper is back, Chase Kelly, Brandon Baucom. So they're going to run a more methodical offense. They don't have the runners that they did last year. So they're going to slow the ball down and look for open shots. And I think that's going to be key against a Huntington team that does have a little bit of quickness, and they're going to have to try and combat that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about McKenzie. I mean, we all think of it as a football school. I mean, that's what their history dictates. But, I mean, this team's won a couple district titles in the last 3 years. So
right.
I think they've sort of quietly built themselves into a mini regional basketball power here in the last couple of years, and they definitely don't want to cede that to Huntington or anybody else.
Also, kind of going off what you said, I think this will be a good chance for them, both teams, to get a baseline of kind of what they need to do and improve. And when they play in January, it'll be a much better game in Huntington. Then we come back to the city for the other matchup, Sacred Heart and Jackson Christian.
Yeah, we had a writer at Sacred Heart's game this past week against Madison, and Sacred Heart had a real good showing. Honestly, they won, I think, by about 30 points. Good nights for Dante Williamson and Wes Ragsdale and Evan Ashlock. Nice balanced scoring. Madison's not obviously the top competition in West Tennessee by any stretch. That's a team that's having a lot of trouble, but some good signs for Sacred Heart. I know you like the Ragsdale kid pretty well, so. It's definitely some good signs from that bunch.
It's Wes Ragsdale, by the way.
All right, what do you call him?
Oh, I thought you just said the Ragsdale kid.
Wes Ragsdale is very good, but the problem's going to be is trying to get through Jackson Christian's defense. They're 6-0 on the season right now, although they do play USJ on Tuesday night, which is going to be a very tough test. But it's going to be, how well does Jackson Christian's defense, hold them down? They've only one team has scored over 50 points on Jackson Christian thus far this season, and that was 54 by Huntington in the second meeting. So, I mean, it's how well do the Eagles get in their defense, and can they shut those shooters down, Dante Williamson, Wes Ragsdale, and Evan Ashlock?
All right, well, when we come back, you'll get to hear kind of our pick for the game of the week for the entire area going into this weekend.
Southside High School.
from performing a Shakespearean play in front of a crowd of up to 1,000,
to conducting experiments in the lab,
winning a state championship,
while reading exhilarating novels,
fixing your flat tire,
and making test scores out of this world,
from producing a weekly TV show,
to fulfilling duties to our country,
in fulfilling our duties to you.
Southside.
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 Hawks!
The sky is never the limit.
One of the biggest questions going into a weekend's worth of schedules of high school games in a particular area is going to be kind of what's the game of the week. Michael, go ahead and answer that question for us.
The schedules might not seem to appear that way, but TCA Middleton boys has definitely got to be the game to watch this weekend. They've been the two teams in top of District 15A for about the past 4 or 5 years. You know, TCA has not gotten their full allotment of football players back, and that's why they're 2-5 at the moment. But Sergio Paguagua is back. Tuesday night, he had 17 points, 17 rebounds against Sacred Heart, and that gave TCA their second win. And I think this team is only going to get better. Middleton has had those players. You know, their basketball is kind of, you know, Middleton's bread and butter down there. And, you know, you've got players like Justin Moorman and Montrez Jones that have really helped develop that program. And, you know, they've played the tough teams. Their losses are not easy losses. They lost to Fayette Ware in overtime. They beat Haywood. They've played an extremely tough schedule thus far. And now we're going to see, are they ready to say that they're on the road to be district champs?
Yeah, one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing about this game is just how some teams with some size sort of, you know, handle each other. You know, Mormon and Jones are forwards, and Trinity's obviously got a lot of guys with size. They're a pretty big team, and I think that's not something you see just a whole lot, at least not at every high school, but that's definitely one thing. But I think us choosing this as the game of the week, I mean, in our own defense, I mean, this is early December, and we're choosing this not so much just based on what they've done, but what we think they're going to do. Like you said, I mean, these two look like two of the leaders in District 15A, and obviously this game doesn't determine how that district shakes out, but again, like you said, a baseline with Huntington and McKenzie. This can kind of give us a baseline, sort of see where do these teams stack up right now, what do they need to work on for January and February when they're really getting into that serious district stuff.
And when they meet again at TCA in January, February, I could very well see both of these teams still only having 5 or, you know, five.
Not too many more losses.
Right, yeah 3, 4, 5 losses still, with Friday night being the only loss difference.
And also, one player that TCA will have the next time they play that will probably make them a better team in January is Chris Tucker, who's part of the East-West football game over in Cookville. But I also want to point out before we sign off that, you know, last week I went with a team that had a tough schedule as my pick for a good team in AA boys, and Michael made fun of it. So, but I'm not going to make fun of your pick. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
Probably will after we get off air. So thanks we're going to go ahead and do that so I can go ahead and make fun of them. But thanks for watching here on JacksonSun.com. Guys, thanks for coming in and kind of giving y'all's thoughts on high school basketball. Good luck to your teams this week and enjoy the games.